Hello, Recitavers. Welcome back to the channel. Now, today I want to talk about a story which came through my newsfeed the other day. It's a story about a woman who called 999. Now, when she called, she told the person who answered the call that she was feeling cold and that she couldn't move. She said she needed help, not just for herself, but also for her daughter, who depended on her for everything because she had Down syndrome. And also, according to the story, the woman suffered from sickle cell anemia. And the story also explains that during the call, the woman gave the person who answered the call her address. But unfortunately, for whatever reason, this call was not followed through. No ambulance was sent to this woman. Despite leaving her address, nothing was done about this phone call. And for the life of me, I can't understand why. It says here, attempts were made to call the woman. But from what I know, if someone calls 999 and they tell you that something is wrong, and this woman clearly stated her symptoms, that she was feeling cold and that she couldn't move and that she needed help, not just for herself, but also for her daughter, her vulnerable daughter. Even though it says attempts were made to call this woman, I'm wondering why they did not send an ambulance, because clearly this woman said she needed help. But she also added other details that she was looking after her daughter who was a vulnerable person. But even that, looking at this story, even that wasn't enough. And I'm saying, why? And I want to talk about the vulnerable among us. And even if you don't see yourself as a vulnerable person, the thing is, we could all find ourselves vulnerable at any moment. Anything can happen to any one of us. This is not about immigrants. This is not about any specific group of people. It is about you as a person. Now, I have worked with vulnerable people as a carer, as a support worker, and in my current role as a nurse, which I have been doing for over 18 years now. And I can tell you that I have come across vulnerable people. And there are two groups of vulnerable people that I want to highlight in this video. The first group of people that I've come across that I want to highlight in this video are vulnerable people who know that they are vulnerable, but because of their circumstances, they don't know where to begin to find help, to get the help they need. Maybe they are so vulnerable to the extent that they end up feeling helpless, hopeless, and they don't feel that nothing they do, any effort that they make to resolve their situation is going to amount to anything. And then the second group of people that I've come across are those people who don't know they're vulnerable. They are vulnerable, but they don't know that they're vulnerable. I have had an interaction with a vulnerable person. I won't say in what capacity. I've told you I worked as a carer, as a support worker, and also as a nurse. Now, in one of those capacities, I have interacted with someone who was vulnerable, but they were adamant that there was nothing wrong with them, that they were fine. But I could see that they were not fine. It was clear to me as daylight that this person needs help. And me, as a professional, it was then up to me to take the necessary steps to help this person, because failure to do that was going to have disastrous consequences. Probably further down the line, someone else was going to do it, but I had no way of knowing that. This is why this story is so heartbreaking to me, because someone involved in this situation had the power. This is what we've got to understand. Someone had the power to change the outcome. There are certain professions that give you so much power to the point that it can mean the difference between life and death. That is how powerful some of these professions are. Doctor especially, and the people who answer those calls 999, because you're talking to someone at their most vulnerable moment. And I'm saying that they had the power because, according to this report, the coroner said she would have to consider the possibility that sending an ambulance to the address might have been the difference between life or death for the victims. And there's a high chance that sending an ambulance could have made a huge difference. And I'm saying, how does someone's call for help go unanswered? I don't get it. And also, I want to talk about loneliness, especially when it is combined with being vulnerable, especially as an immigrant. Remember, I made a video talking about loneliness and how it has become an epidemic in our society. This is a real problem because this mother and daughter were found 4 months later. To me, that says an awful lot. It is possible I'm saying it is possible because I don't know their circumstances. But from reading the story and the fact that they were found 4 months later, to me, that translates to meaning that there was no one checking up on them, or there was no one else who cared enough to check up on them, because 4 months is a long time. Even 1 week is a long time. If you're part of a community, if you've got a friend, if you've got colleagues, if you've got someone who knows you exist, then they're bound to wonder, why have you gone silent? For 1 week, 2 weeks, 1 month is a long time, let alone 4 months. Loneliness in the UK has become a real crisis. We have the elderly among us who live alone, who are lonely. We have people with chronic illnesses who live alone, because there are some chronic illnesses that mean that you need someone maybe to help you get into bed, even to pass you a cup of water, to feed you, to remind you to do something. Sometimes we need that. But many people in our society are isolated. They are alone. Some feel unheard. Some feel invisible. This is sad. And like I said earlier, we have those who know that they are vulnerable and who take the necessary steps to make sure that they get the help that they need, and they're getting the help. But unfortunately, we also have the other group who appear to be doing just fine. Maybe because of shame, they don't want people to know that they're struggling. So they don't tell anyone that they're struggling, that they need help. And sometimes they're part of a community. Maybe they go to church, they go to this club and so on. But no one knows that they're struggling back home. No one knows, because they hide because of shame. And I'm saying we shouldn't be ashamed, because any one of us could find ourselves in a vulnerable position. Anything can happen. You can become sick, you can have an accident, lose your legs. Anything can happen to any one of us. So there's nothing to be ashamed of. We should be able to ask for help when we need the help, because the good thing about the UK is that there are resources. There are places to go where you can find help. And I've made several videos on this channel talking about the fact that there are different organizations in the UK where you can go and find help. And if you're not sure where to start, I always say that the best place to start is the government website, because everything you need, all the information that you need to navigate life in the UK is on there, .gov.uk. And also one thing as well that I've realized, another factor that makes people vulnerable, especially among immigrants, is the fact that there are barriers, specifically language barriers. For example, when you make such kind of calls, 999, especially if English is not your first language, because there are situations where someone wants to communicate something important, but unfortunately, they are not able to articulate what the problem is. Now, this can end up frustrating both the person who needs help and the person on the other end of that phone call or on the other end of that communication. Because yes, in as much as they want to help, if they can't understand what the issue is or what the problem is, then yeah, it is going to become really difficult to help that person. And also, if someone is unfamiliar with certain services, then they won't know how to navigate that service, even though they know that it exists. But because it's unfamiliar, and again, language barrier as well comes into play, then it can become difficult for that person to get the help that they really need. And also cultural differences as well, it can get in the way. And also, if you're a carer looking after someone who's vulnerable, and in this situation, the mother looked after her daughter, I mean, the daughter was entirely dependent on her, that can also be overwhelming. It can take a toll on both your physical health and your mental health. And if you don't know how to get the support that you need, guess what? You're putting two lives at risk. The life of the person you care for and your life as well. But coming back to the story, according to my opinion, reading the details, to me, this is looking like a systematic failure. This lady and the daughter, according to my opinion, were failed. They were failed by the people who answered that call. They should have followed through, because the woman clearly stated that she was cold, she couldn't move, and she needs help for herself and her daughter, and she left her address. That should have been enough. That should have prompted. So yeah, I'm really disappointed, to be honest with you, and it breaks my heart. It really breaks my heart. To me, this is quite telling, and also the fact that they were found 4 months later. To me, yeah, it signals something serious in our communities. Like, how can someone pass away and for 4 months no one knows about it? Did she have neighbors? What happened to us as a community? I don't know what you think. I don't know what you think. As always, feel free to share your thoughts in the comment section. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up. I'll see you in the next video. Take care.